Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, March 10th, 2017, the WNW 275. And I want to talk about this ridiculous no there story about Donald Trump and his administration, his staff, prior to Election Day in November, colluding with the Russians. There is nothing there. There has never been anything there. This is nothing more than the Democrats and the deep state and the news media wanting something to be there. Maybe they can get a special prosecutor and force Donald Trump, get enough dirt and force him to resign or impeach him. This pipe dream, kooky, nutty. And this story about the Russian collusion is morphing into a backfire and a huge embarrassment to the Democrats, the mainstream media, and also the deep state. And I want to start at the beginning, before Election Day 2016, in October of 2016. You may remember Donald Trump making all these accusations about he was afraid they were going to rig the election, and I think they did. That's how Hillary got the popular vote. They had illegals voting. There were ballot box stuffing that was happening up in Wayne County in Detroit, Michigan. Thank you, Jill Stein, for covering that. Ohio, illegals voting. California, they issue driver's license and don't check them by the hundreds of thousands every year. California wants to be a sanctuary state, and the president himself, President Obama at the time, just before the election, was telling illegal aliens to vote because, you're a citizen when you vote, and don't worry, we won't prosecute you. So he must have thought there was massive voter fraud with illegal immigrants, but I digress. Before that was going on, when they thought they were sure Hillary Clinton was going to win, they had these stories, and here is Hillary Clinton. Some people are sore losers. She was already thinking she was going to win. Clinton mocks Trump for rigged election. This is the Daily Mail, the 10/23/16. She thought she had it in the bag. Obama accuses Trump of whining on vote rigging claims. This is Fox 10/18/16. Why Trump's talk of a rigged vote is so dangerous. CNN in on the act too at 10/19/16. I got this from Rush Limbaugh, who laid this out on his site and talked about how they was all laughing about the rigging, and this when they lost, it was rigged. Well, the Russians did it, and it's just a ridiculous, relentless story that is morphing into the real story, and that is a hacking by one party or issuing warrants using all the powers of office in the deep state to attack an incoming president duly elected by an outgoing administration that lost. And they put their candidate, they cheated to get in, and they cheated to get Hillary Clinton in, and they cheated Bernie Sanders. That's why Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepped down, and Clinton hired her. That's why Donna Brazile was giving questions to Hillary Clinton before these debates in the primary. A totally cheat job, but this is the one they wanted, and then she lost, and she lost badly. They couldn't rig it enough for them to win. So, surprise, Donald Trump wins. And then they amp up these tripwires and amp up this surveillance, where, one of his people, General Michael Flynn, is surveilled on the telephone in Trump Tower. And the call was recorded and transcribed, yet James Clapper, after Donald Trump comes out and blats out, the Trump Tower was wiretapped by that sick Obama. I don't know if he did it, but I don't know if he actually ordered it. But he knew about it, which is like him ordering. But this is James Clapper, who is the former head of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. I mean, he knows everything by the FBI, NSA, the CIA. I can deny wiretapping of Donald Trump, of Trump Tower, NBC News. Hold that thought. I can deny wiretap of Trump Tower, NBC News. Now remember, he oversees all the agencies, so he's supposed to know this, right? And then we have FBI Director Comey that either compromised or a corrupt FBI director. FBI asked, this is widely reported, asked Justice Department to publicly deny Trump's wiretap allegations. Really? Well, maybe they should have done that here with the New York Times. The New York Times, this is on Inauguration Day. And let's look at the headline that they're running. Right here, wiretap data used in inquiry of Trump's aides. We're talking about Michael Flynn. We're talking about a felony here. They released this data, and I wonder how they got the wiretap. And of course, this is Inauguration Day, January 20th. But here it is, the New York Times, the headline above the fold: wiretap data used in inquiry of Trump's aides. Oh, let me focus it down. There we go. You know what I'm saying here? As the New York Times were reporting that they had wiretaps on Trump Tower. And then we have just recently broke this week. Yep, they did. They had a FISA warrant, a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, a FISA warrant to wiretap. It had been turned down before when they were using Trump's name. How did they get that warrant? How did they get that warrant, and did they get it legally? And this is just one piece of the puzzle, this warrant. And here is this FBI investigation, Trump server. At the FBI investigation, a Trump server in its Russia probe, but no charges are expected. The FBI investigated a Trump server in its Russian probe, but no charges are expected. Now, this is Circa.com 3817, and look what they say here. In the months-long FBI counterintelligence investigation into Russian efforts to influence the 2016 presidential campaign, which they did, briefly investigated a computer server tied to Donald Trump's business near the end of the election, but has not gathered evidence of election tampering to date that would warrant criminal charges against any of Trump's associates. Circa has learned. This is Circa.com. They confirmed there was a FISA warrant in October. And please remember that the FBI investigated a Trump server, and they were in Trump Tower. FBI director asked Justice Department to publicly deny Trump's wiretap allegation. I don't know what to say about James Comey. He's corrupt, he is compromised, or both. And he's bragging about how he's going to be the FBI director. You're stuck with me for the next 6.5 years. It's unbelievable. And here's where the story morphs. So we know that's total BS. And the story morphs right here, USA Today, and here we have the CIA can hack into phones, TVs, everything. WikiLeaks, boom! WikiLeaks drops the bomb on the CIA. Now, I will say one thing about WikiLeaks, and Congressman Mac Thornberry he's a House Republican who said, it's not really that fair. I mean, WikiLeaks only dumps stuff, negative stuff about the United States of America and our spy agency. They don't do anything on Russia and China. And that is a good point. Russia and China commit espionage. They hack people. They do all kinds of stuff. They do it too. They're not sinless by a country mile. That was a good point by Mac Thornberry. But I want to get back to WikiLeaks. And WikiLeaks, as it pertains to why this story is morphing. This story is morphing, backfiring, and prosecutions will likely be forthcoming on this one. And here is the WikiLeaks strikes again. This is the Washington Post right here. Washington Post, which is, so negative, Donald Trump. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Jeff Bezos has a $600 million contract for cloud computing with the CIA. I'm sure that doesn't affect their reporting, but so they had to come out. Negative Washington Post. I'm on their feed. I get one nasty negative story headline after another about Donald Trump or somebody who's negative, one negative thing after another. And here it comes out. This is a partial title. WikiLeaks strikes again. This is the Washington Post 3817. And read this. This is from the haters at the Washington Post. A key point here is that this document trove shifts the narrative away from the hacking of the DNC and Russia's relationship with Trump, because there wasn't one, and toward a focus on the malfeasance allegedly committed by the CIA. Now, instead, we must consider where the information came from and the lack of credibility WikiLeaks has as a news source. Oh, whoa. The Washington Post talking about the lack of credibility, and didn't they do the fake news story, the prop or not, which some bogus source they put out there? They were threatened to be sued over it. They had to retract it. WikiLeaks has never had to retract something they've put out. They've got a 10-year history. They've never said, oh, yeah, those documents were false. And even the Russian hacking, quote unquote, Russian hacking, which I want to get into more of that in a minute, they initially said, well, we don't even know if those are authentic. Well, they were authenticated, all of them. All this tawdry stuff about Podesta, about the John Podesta campaign manager, Hillary Clinton's, about Hillary Clinton, about the collusion between the media, about the dirty tricks they were doing. All that was true. And then we come down to some of the things that they list here on WikiLeaks. This is the WikiLeaks summary of the things they can do. And I just want to read you here, see if we can get the title in. Let's see. Can we get that? Yeah, WikiLeaks nukes the deep state with 3/7/17 Vault 7 CIA release. Okay. And there's just 15 things on the front page. And, CIA equals Microsoft, Apple, Cisco, Google. They can turn on your TV. They can turn on your smartphone. They can also do this. CIA deliberately mimics hacking protocols of Russia to obfuscate their own hacks. CIA, deliberately mimics the hacking. Here we go. The CIA deliberately mimics the hacking protocols of Russia to obfuscate their own hacks. Oh, you mean they can make it look like somebody else did it? You mean like when the CIA did it, or somebody in the CIA, and they made it look like the Russians did it, and then they jumped to the conclusion that, Donald Trump was involved in Russia. And incidentally, a lot of us, intelligence sources, hate WikiLeaks, and they say they're in bed with the Russians, but that's not where they got the information, according to WikiLeaks, and of course they have a 10-year track record. But here, this popped up again, and I've been telling you about how, the intelligence sources retired that have come out, and they have said multiple times, I said that this was a counter coup. It was reported on multiple places, including Alex Jones. He interviewed some of these people. I interviewed Robert Steele, that this was a counter coup, that this came from intelligence sources, and out pops last night on Hannity. I was watching the TV shows. This Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer, he's a former Intel operations officer. He's retired. He says, well, retired NSA guys did the DNC hack job and made it look like the Russians did it. It made it look like Russian hacking. Come on. Here we are again. There's no reason why Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer would put his tail in a sling over this. He's a former Intel officer, did this for a living. Retired NSA guys did the DNC hack and made it look like the Russians did it. So this is a story about a counter coup that did not involve Donald Trump. This is a story about surveillance and release of information, and that is felony in nature, that got General Flynn basically fired, although there were some interpersonal relationships there that was working there, that they have leaked all kinds of information, all felonies. This is an attack against Donald Trump and his administration to knock him out or at least slow him down, and they have all these deep state operatives. That's what this is. That's what this story's turned into. And Trump is still in charge. And this is likely going to produce criminal indictments. A lot of people are going to get fired. And then I just want to bring up, remember the head of the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. We did not include any, he said this on NBC a week or so ago, we did not include any evidence in our report. I say and he's the head, he was in touch with all these guys, head of all these guys, NSA, FBI, and CIA, with my office, Director of National Intelligence, that had any reflection of collusion between the members of the Trump campaign and the Russian. There was no evidence of that. Well, then the mainstream media looks awful stupid, the Democrats look awful dumb, and the some of the members in the deep state, and I'm sure not everybody's on board with this, at the CIA and SA and whatever, they're not down with this. Not everybody is down with this. And some of these members have committed treason. They certainly have committed felonies. I think treason. But they've certainly committed felonies releasing this stuff. And that's what the story has turned into, an all-out treasonous assault by leftovers in one administration, and who knows, maybe it goes all the way up to the President of the United States. The White House was informed. Robbie Mook was informed. Hillary Clinton was informed of this stuff. You know, the President Obama was informed of this stuff. But this is what this is blown up, morphed into, is hacking, spying, police state policies, treason, felony activity. And it ain't on Donald Trump. And then the AG Sessions, which he should have never recused himself about a phony story. This story was phony. They all could sit in a room together and go, nobody did this, right? Right. Phony story. So Sessions suggests openness to review of proceeding to predecessors' actions. A review of predecessors' actions. This is AP 3917. He's got an openness to review of the predecessors' actions. That's the former administration. That wasn't the special. That wasn't the special prosecutor or the review they wanted. A thing that backfired on them. The predecessors' actions. Sorry, couldn't get that out. I'm reading it backwards, upside down. And then, just a little tip. You know, I've been telling you about Hillary Clinton. A fifth of U.S. uranium production, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, fell into the hands of Russians after $150 million, $145 million in donations to the charity fraud they're shutting down. That's not a big deal. And here we have Sberbank. This is a Russian bank. Confirms hiring Podesta Group for lobbying its interest. This is the Russian TASS news agency, 3917. They hired Tony Podesta, which is the son, of the Podesta, John Podesta, which was the campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton. They hired Tony Podesta, brother of John Podesta, Clinton campaign manager, actually chairman, and paid him $170,000 to basically lobby Congress to remove sanctions on this bank, this Russian bank, Sberbank. Of course, that's not a big story with the mainstream media. But the Russians colluding with Donald Trump, not blown up in their faces. The mainstream press has, they're going to run out of toes. They're discharging their firearms into their feet. I mean, it's stupid. I'm glad I don't work there anymore. I mean, I'm telling you, I'd be walking to my boss's office saying, hey, enough of this. I don't want to do this. No, they're there. Now here's this. So what do? They turn. They pivot. This is from some weasel Greg somebody at the Washington Post. Trumpism is now getting exposed as a monumental fraud. No, I'd say the mainstream media, the former administration, and the deep state treasonous weasels that are committing felonies, they're being exposed. And speaking about exposing, I wrote the guy who wrote that little op-ed piece, Greg something, I don't know what his name is, but I said, hey, what about your, Amazon wins a ruling for a $600 million CIA cloud contract. How does that affect your reporting, on anything that has, CIA in it? I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with their reporting because the Washington Post, does journalism with a big J. Not. I said that Donald Trump would be successful. He's going to bring some jobs back. Couldn't think of a better guy to have at the helm of the ship going into the kind of storm we're going into than Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton would have been a complete and total disaster, and we'd have had more tyranny than we may have gone right into full-blown civil war within the first year of her presidency. But I got to tell you, so here's the jobs number that popped up, and they were shocked. People were surprised. Private employers had 298,000 jobs. They were expecting, 170, 80,000 jobs. They had 298,000 jobs. Make America great again, right? I mean, they're bringing back all this stuff, right? How's Donald Trump going to pay for that wall? What do we spend? What's one reported figure? $113 billion on incarceration, on food stamps, on housing, on education. on all the medical care of all the illegal aliens. So, the people getting that cheap labor is really expensive for us taxpayers. $100 billion is real money in terms of a cost for, somebody to pick something for $7 an hour and then dump all that rest of that cost onto the rest of the taxpayers. But that's the thing. Jobs numbers up. But, listen, the economy's not doing well. I mean, you've heard about 19 stores are going to go out of business. J.C. Penney's is closing 130 or 140 stores. Macy's is closing stores. Sears is about a third of the size it used to be. Malls are going to be, 1/3 of malls are going to be shutting down. I mean, the economy is necrotic. I mean, it's like having, somebody on life support, and they got a lung breathing for them, and they got something pumping their heart, and that's the economy. That's what we got. And the only people partying are the people on Wall Street. You're going to keep up the free money. You're going to keep this dead body alive. Oh, yay! Let's party. So the Atlanta Fed comes out, and they reduce the first quarter GDP to 1.3%. This is one of these numbers where this is the best they can make it look. John Williams talking about how the economy was going to skid downward, wind downward. I mean, is that real 1.3% or is it 0%? Or is it negative percent relative to inflation? That's the best they can make it look, 1.3%. And this is the backdrop, the declining retail, the declining economy, the declining gross domestic product. This is the backdrop that we now have a 100% certainty that on the 15th of March, the Fed is going to raise interest rates probably 1/4 point. Whew. I've had people write me on the site saying, well, they've raised rates before and the stock market went up 50%. They've never raised interest rates from this low of a point with this much debt in the U.S. and globally. What's it, $230-40 trillion in debt. The U.S. has a cash balance, which is, we're coming into the debt ceiling, hard stop, as David Stockman said, on the 15th, coming into the debt ceiling, no more debt, 20 trillion, bing, doing, stop right there. Which could end up being good for Donald Trump, as David Stockman said, he would be directing all the money that comes in on a monthly basis. You're getting money, you're not. You're getting this much, you're getting that much. I'm going to cut this, I'm going to add to that. Donald Trump will be the guy doing that until they raise the debt ceiling. And there's going to be, the Democrats going to turn into huge hawks. But, of course, Mitch McConnell and John Boehner and, what's his name, the current Speaker of the House here, is Paul Ryan. They all gave Obama all the money they wanted. And they set this trap March of 15th, 2017, that boing, hard stop into the debt ceiling. And so here you have the new Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin. Yield curve inverts as Mnuchin warns Congress of extraordinary measures to avoid debt ceiling. Well, actually to avoid default. That he is telling them, raise the debt ceiling. Hey, folks, raise the debt ceiling and do it now. He warns of extraordinary measures to avoid the debt ceiling. Now, if they raise it, will they continue to party for a while? I guess they will. I guess. If they don't, will it be like what Stockman said? Nobody wants to vote for it? They're not going to want to do that. Bill Gross, the bond king, who's not a Trump fan, incidentally, but I do appreciate his insight in the market. Bill Gross, our financial system is a truckload of nitroglycerin on a bumpy road. This is a 3917 zero hedge. Our financial system is a truckload of nitroglycerin on a bumpy road. I think he's talking about it blowing up. And remember how I was showing you the 10-year Treasury climbing, and it got up to 2.6%. Then it kind of backed off a little while. I don't know. Were they buying bonds? How did they get that to back off? I don't know. But guess what, folks? Here we are again, 2.6%. Now this isn't rising from last July at 1.33%, and this was at 2.3, 2.4% for a while. Now it's 2.6%. I think Jeff Gundlach said, and other people, Goldman Sachs, were pegging this at 2.75%. I think it blows up. Gundlach and other people think it's 3%, that there'll be a sell on the bond market. Remember the trillions of dollars of debt that people would want to unlock and get paid. And that's what Hugo Salinas Price was talking about this dark cloud of bonds. When people say, well, we printed money. Yeah, we printed bonds. And when people start liquefying those bonds, all this money comes pouring out until they stop redeeming the bonds. And then you have a whole other thing. I mean, are they going to redeem trillions and trillions of dollars of treasury bonds? Are they going to redeem trillions of euro bonds? Are they going to redeem trillions of dollars of bonds? People get nervous saying, I want my money. I can't. Because as interest rates go up, the bond prices, the value of the bond goes down. You don't get your principal back. If you bought a 1.7% 10-year treasury bond and now it's 2.6%, you're looking at almost a 1 percentage point out. How much is that bond worth if you wanted to sell it? Well, they'd say, well, you paid $1,000 for it, but wow, rates are up so much. We'll give you, 60 cents on the dollar. I mean, that's what you're talking about here. I don't know. I'm not a bond trader, but that's as the rates go up, the value of the bond, when you want to liquidate it, goes down. So how much pain are people going to take before they say, I bought this at 1.8% or 2% or 2.3% or whatever they bought it at, and the rates are they raise rates a quarter, and we're at 2.6, and we're at 2.85. Is that where we go? Boom, just like that. I don't know. And then we got to deal with the debt ceiling too. So if you raise the debt ceiling, that's more debt to finance. And maybe why this is happening, and that's just something I saw on Zero Hedge. Arizona Senate Committee, they tried to do this before and it got voted down. Arizona Senate Committee passes bill to treat gold as money, remove capital gains tax. Zero Hedge 3/8/17. I've been telling my friends, I said, at some point I think Trump, what he's going to do, he's going to tell everybody, he'll try anything, and every little bit will help. He'll tell everybody with precious metals, hey, listen, we're going to do the same thing that Arizona did. Look, we're going to remove the capital gains tax. Now, this will be on the way up. By the time he does this, metals will be decidedly back into a bull market, and who knows where they're going to go to. I mean, are they going to be 100, 150? I mean, Cliff High says more than 600. I don't know. Is it 5,000, 10,000 for gold? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much money is going to rain down from the bonds. I don't know how much debt destruction we're going to have. I don't know how much inflation we're going to have, but if this happens, I think what will happen in the Trump administration, and he'll say, hey, listen, for anybody with gold coins, particularly silver eagles and gold eagles, and it may involve any gold, but particularly for them, I think for sure, you can go to a car dealer or you can go to a closing table. You can buy a house. You can buy a car. If somebody is set up at Sears to take a roll of silver for that washer and dryer or whatever, we'll let you do that. It just has to come back to the bank. I think that's going to be coming. People are like, oh, they're going to confiscate it. No, they're not. I don't think so. When it was confiscated in 1933, there were $20 gold pieces. And that was, a 0.9767 of an ounce of gold, right? So they couldn't, they couldn't have that out there because they wanted to raise gold from $20 to $20.67 an ounce. They wanted to raise it $35 an ounce. That's what happened. They needed all the coins back, but not now. And I find it hard to believe they're going to confiscate particularly U.S. minted gold eagles that they've been selling you since 1986. I find that hard to believe. Oh, yeah, all that stuff you bought? Yeah, that's illegal now. No. No, that ain't going to happen. It may happen with other forms of gold mines, other stuff. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to happen with that. But I think that is something that could happen, and that will be in the middle of a bull market where it'll be going much, much higher. I want to talk a little bit about the war scenario here, and this is the U.S. sending hundreds of Marines to Syria to support a fight against ISIL. Actually, it's artillery batteries. That's 1,000, less than 1,000, they say. That's all they would say, less than 1,000. Well, I don't know. Is that 850, 950? I don't know. They say there's also another 1,000 being sent to Kuwait. The 1,000 for the going after Mosul or going after for the artillery units already there, supposedly got there. This is just looking like we're wading back into this lake of fire here in the Middle East. I mean, just wading back in. And it's such a complicated mess. I mean, here we have Turkey that hates the Kurds, and Turkey and the Kurds are fighting ISIS, and that Turkey would like to knock out the Kurds, and we have to, reportedly put our troops between Turkey and the Kurds. that are also fighting ISIS, and then we're going after ISIS, which is basically equipped by U.S. Weaponry, and we were supporting them. There was no Free Syrian Army. Please stop. That died a long time ago. We spent $500 million to train 5 people. Really, 5. Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman out of Hawaii, was talking about how you got a bill saying we should stop funding terrorists. Then let's say we do get rid of ISIS, and I think we probably will. Then what happens then? Then you have from Iran all the way to Syria is under Russian and Iranian control. And the Supreme Leader wrote a book about how to destroy Israel. I mean, that's not misquoted anymore. For the years, let's misquote it. Well, listen, he wrote a book saying, here's how I'm going to destroy Israel. So, I don't know what happens then, but what a mess. What a mess in the Middle East. It's a huge mess. This Iran nuclear no-deal where nothing was signed. The head of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, found that out from the Kerry State Department. Yeah, nothing was signed. So there's no deal. And here we have the Iranians. They conduct more ballistic missile tests, this time from a naval vessel. That's just more fuel to the fire. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just reporting that this is, even though you're not hearing about it, it's unreported in the mainstream press. They haven't really touched a lot of this. It's a problem, and this could, especially Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, you block that off, and you're going to see oil prices go from 50 to 100 in about a day. And then you have over in Japan, you had the North Korea test firing 4 or 5 missiles in some kind of a mock drill against U.S. Military bases in Japan. And this, Japan considering defense boost after North Korea missile launch. This is Today Online, not the Today Show, Today Online, it's in Asia. And then we have this. The government is also considering, this is Japan, considering adopting the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD, that the U.S. began to deploy in South Korea, but it could take years before any equipment is installed. Now, take a look at this THAAD system, this Terminal High Altitude Aerial Defense System. China is not happy about that, and either is North Korea. And remember, I don't know if you're a student of history, but remember how the Korean War started. North Korea just invaded the South. They just invaded. Could that happen again? Are we ready for that? Would we have to nuke them? I don't know. They have a standing, $1.2 million, 2 man army, 2 million man army. I don't know. They have a huge army, North Korea. So even if they took huge casualties, if you knocked out 500,000 of them, they still have a pretty significant force. Are we ready for that? Would China, push them into doing that because we have this dispute in the South China Sea? I don't know. But things are not that quiet on the war front. Simmering in the Middle East again, simmering Strait of Hormuz, also in the Middle East with Iran. Over in Asia, also, things are in a simmering boil in a lot of places in the world. And if one of these actually does blow up, if we get an invasion from North Korea into South Korea, or a bona fide nuke attack on Japan, or we have a closing of the Strait of Hormuz, or we have, where we get 1,000, our artillery base gets wiped out for some reason, for some, maybe the Russians attack it like we attacked them in Syria, a few months back. I don't know. I mean, the economy is so fragile, as Bill Gross says, it's like a truck with nitroglycerin on a bumpy road. Then, boom, we get a war, we get a crash. Just like that. And add that to the already crazy things about the debt ceiling, coming up, and the interest rates rising as well, against a very weak backdrop to boot, with retail and everything else. So all that to say this, just be ready. Be aware of what's going on. Things aren't as rosy as anybody thinks. And listen, I'm for Donald Trump, but he's going to have huge problems coming his way. He's got military problems. He's got economic problems, and he has problems with the media, the deep state, and the Democrats, the prior administration. I mean, they're not going to stop. Although this Russian story is an embarrassing, stupid thing that's killing them. I will tell you that. So that's the way I see it. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. Remember, Fear not. Don't let these people create fear in your heart. Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father is in charge.